Now that the main Jujutsu Kaisen storyline is already done, how about we go back and break down every single one of the 14 domain expansions that we were ever introduced into the story. From Chimera Shadow Garden to Unlimited Void, Malevolent Shrine, and of course, there's also our boy Yuji Itadori's domain. We'll start from the 14th and go all the way up to what ended up being the greatest domain expansion in the Jujutsu Kaisen universe. And spoiler warnings, of course, for the entire Jujutsu Kaisen manga. Just keep watching, guys. You're gonna find this video oddly refreshing. My name is TK. If you all enjoying the content, please like, comment, and subscribe, and feel free to sign up for memberships. We're only going higher and higher, and I'm gonna keep going. And no stopping this train. Let's get into some anime. So believe it or not, the 14th and the weakest domain expansion on this list is actually one of Kenjaku's domains. Technically, it's not Kenjaku's domain, it's the domain of the special grade curse he summons in chapter 101. The curse is called Smallpox Deity, and the domain itself is called Graveyard Domain. It's a domain which traps the opponent in a graveyard themed domain. You are trapped inside of a coffin buried beneath a gravestone, and a count to 3 starts. If you fail to get out of the coffin within 3 seconds, you are infected with the smallpox disease and quite literally die. The sure hit effect of this domain is a disease that has a 100% fatality rate. It is hardcore. Fortunately, Smallpox Deity didn't have any intelligence because it had become a part of the Gato's curse spirit manipulation. Mei Mei and Ui Ui managed to outsmart and exercise the curse before it was too late. Now, moving on to the 13th domain, we've got Dagon's Horizon of the Captivating Skanda. This domain is a beach area where Dagon can freely control water as he pleases, and he can also summon plenty of water-type Pokemons. I mean, fish like Shikigami. This is fitting because out of the 4 disaster-level curses, Dagon was born from the fear of water-based natural disasters. It's worse than Graveyard Domain, but also pretty chill because this is where Mahito and Kenjaku used to hang out before the Shibuya incident. But why isn't it much higher on the list though? It's because as dangerous as this domain is, it's not instantaneous like Jogo or Mahito's domain. It's more like a slow, brutal death. At number 12, we've got Higuruma's Deadly Sentencing. Now, this domain inherently makes it impossible for any violence to take place until a court decision is reached. All violence is prohibited until then. There is no other way to go about it. Once you're in the domain, you cannot do anything other than go through with a trial, and Higuruma is almost guaranteed to take your curse technique or cursed energy away. Add this with the fact that Higuruma was stated to be a sorcerer with talents equal to Sato Gojo, and you can get someone with a level of intelligence and technique that can bring the best out of this domain. This is important. The domain expansion is the extension of the user, so of course we also have to consider the user's pedigree and approach to Jujutsu. Still, Deadly Sentencing doesn't have the kind of sure hit effect that can get it a higher spot on this list. At number 11, we have Itadori Yuji's domain expansion. This domain is legendary on reincarnated sorcerers because of the soul dismantle that directly destroys the boundary between the souls. But overall, Yuji's domain expansion is weak. It's just a barrier that allows him to use soul dismantle as a sure hit effect. Nothing more, nothing less. This is why it doesn't even have a proper name. Yuji simply called it domain expansion. Though after Yuji increases his shrine output, learns divine flames, and also gets more experience with convergence, he may very well be able to realize a domain expansion even more deadly than Malevolent Shrine. Just imagine what he could do with Shrine, plus divine flames, plus blood manipulation. At number 10, we have Megumi's Chimera Shadow Garden. A lot of people actually underestimate this domain because it's incomplete and doesn't have a sure hit effect. But as we saw during Megumi's fight with Reggie, the lack of sure hit is Chimera's Shadow Garden's strength, because it inherently makes anti-domain techniques useless. It's similar to Dagon's domain in the sense that Megumi just slams you with all of his Shikigami, but what makes it more impressive is the way he can manipulate the shadows. Unless you reinforce your feet with cursed energy, you'll continue to fall deeper and deeper into a bottomless abyss, all the while getting attacked by the Shikigami. It's genuinely messed up, and just imagine how strong Megumi is now going to be if he buffs up this domain with all of the muscle memory he has, thanks to Sukuna spamming 10 shadows and even Maharaga while using his body. That'd put Chimera Shadow Garden at the top of the list, equal to Unlimited Void and Malevolent Shrine. At number 9, we've got Hakari's Idle Death Gamble. It's a game-themed, inherently harmless domain that takes less than 0.2 seconds to activate. Its sure hit effect is harmless, which explains how it's so fast, and of course, the key benefit of this domain is that it gives Hakari indefinite cursed energy and reverse curse technique for 4 minutes and 11 seconds every time he wins a jackpot. He objectively becomes unkillable, so unless you're special grade, he's going to cook you up in those 4 minutes and 11 seconds by reinforcing his attacks with limitless cursed energy. It's diabolical, and because the only condition for hitting the jackpot is the luck, the domain expansion is all about the vibes. Now at number 8, we've got Jogo's Coffin of the Iron Mountain. It's a genuine shame that he only uses his domain expansion once against Gojo Satoru, but if we're being real, then his domain is actually pretty brilliant. Jogo is a disaster level cursed spirit who was born from humanity's fear of fire-related natural disasters. So it's quite fitting that his domain expansion is all about trapping a target inside of an active volcano. It's hot enough to literally just combust you inside instantly. The sure hit effect is about hitting the target with molten rock and lava from the environment of the volcano itself. Just talking about it out loud makes you feel exactly why it's so much more dangerous than Dagon's Beach. It's brutal and inhumane. Out of all the domain expansions, this one looks like the most like hell. At number 7, we have Cursed Nayu's Time Cell Moon Palace. Nayu's domain is truly cursed. It's hard to believe, but it's basically the English or Spanish meaning. But it's more like when the domain is casted, you have to move exactly like Naoya, or every cell in your body is going to get attacked by the sure hit effect. That is mental. Conveniently, Maki has no cursed energy, so the domain sure hit effect didn't even recognize her as a target, but just imagine how other sorcerers would have fared against it. Sorcerers like Gojo and Yuta can use their own domain and turn it into a domain clash, but every grade 1 and below is just going to be rendered completely helpless. Whoever moves first gets every cell in their body attacked. And one thing I'd like to point is that you can't really stop your cells from moving, so even if you're as still as possible, your cells keep moving and keep taking damage from the sure hit effect. Moving on to number 6, we've got Yaruzu's Threefold Affliction. It's a domain which allows her a sure hit of any of her constructed attacks. Since Yaruzu's curse technique is construction, she can recreate any substance she knows about. But this is where it gets crazy. She can also create a true sphere. The thing about True Sphere is that it is impossible to create using normal means, but when created, it theoretically generates infinite pressure, which makes it untouchable. This is why when Yoruzu uses True Sphere using the sure hit of her Threefold Affliction, she is hitting her target with quite literally unstoppable infinite force. If it were an open barrier domain like Malevolent Shrine, it would be stronger than both Malevolent Shrine and Unlimited Void. And speaking of open barrier domains, we've got one at number 5. We're talking about Womb Perfusion. It's Kenjaku's domain expansion, and he is the greatest barrier user after Tengen himself. We don't know much about how its sure hit effect is, but just the idea that it's the only open barrier domain other than Malevolent Shrine, and considering what was said in chapter 206, the sure hit's effect's explosive force is similar to what's delivered by a direct hit from Maximum Uzumaki. Ultimately, it was strong enough to critically injure a special grade sorcerer like Yuki Tsukumo, even though Yuki herself has a kind of technique that allows her to add infinite mass to herself and her attacks. At number 4, we have Mahito's Self-Embodiment of Perfection. Alright guys, if we're being real, this domain is perfect. Mahito's curse technique allows him to reshape souls. He can do pretty much anything he wants with souls, and although it's scary enough as it is, the perfect self-embodiment of perfection allows Mahito to create an environment where he can use idle transfigurations on all souls at will. He is proficient enough that he can use the domain even for 0.2 seconds, and the sure hit on the domain also has been shown to work without Mahito making direct contact with the target. In fact, Mahito was so slick that he also avoided a clash with Sukuna's soul because he only opened his domain for 0.2 seconds. It's peak combat, and the only reason it isn't literally at the very top of this list is because the top 3 are just straight cheat codes. At number 3, we have Yuta's Authentic Mutual Love. Imagine the ability to choose which of your copy techniques you want to use as your domain sure hit effect. Plus, the domain has an unlimited number of katana, and each one of them is imbued with a curse technique from the list of the techniques Yuta has already copied. He doesn't know which katana has which techniques though, but he can use them indefinitely. It's all about spamming curse techniques while also using one of your techniques as a sure hit. This is what Yuta did against Sukuna. He spammed many techniques including Shrine, and then ultimately used Jacob's Ladder as the sure hit. In simpler terms, Authentic Mutual Love allows Yuta unrestricted access to all copied curse techniques and can use them by also applying the sure hit of the domain. Yuta also has abnormal curse energy reserves, which means that he can use Authentic Mutual Love back to back. Alright, now that we're down to the top 2 domain expansions, it's time to tackle the eternal question. Is it Malevolent Shrine or Unlimited Void that deserves the top spot? What do you guys think? I know, Malevolent Shrine is an open barrier domain, and the narrator personally said that the ability to use one's domain without a barrier is like an artist painting a masterpiece not on a canvas, but on air. This statement makes it clear that an open barrier domain like Malevolent Shrine is superior. But guys, if that was the only factor, then Kenjaku's domain would be top 2 along with Malevolent Shrine. Yes, the open barrier is one factor, but there is more to domain expansions than just barriers. I'm putting Malevolent Shrine at number 2, and within 2 minutes, you'll see why. Malevolent Shrine is the first domain expansions to ever debut in the story. It's the domain of the strongest sorcerer in history, and its sure hit is literally unhinged. Relentless assault where you can continuously get hit by both cleave and dismantle until everything in the domain is destroyed or the domain itself collapses. Guys, Toji and Maki can choose to not participate in the domain sure hit, but when it comes to Malevolent Shrine, they'd get sliced up anyway, because even if they can avoid cleave, dismantle doesn't discriminate. Everything is brutally cut and sliced to the point that by the time the domain is done, nothing remains. Nothing at all. If we're talking strictly in terms of what classifies someone as a special grade sorcerer, Sukuna's domain is the most perfect example in the entire story because of its potential for immeasurable destruction. There is a reason why only Gojo and Yuji have ever survived the Malevolent Shrine. It is too overpowered. And let's not forget how Sukuna used a binding vow to add divine flames to his domain in chapter 259. Remember how I said that the coffin of the Iron Mountain is like hell? Well, this is where Malevolent Shrine actually becomes one. The divine flame pulverizes everything inside of the domain down to the particles themselves. It turns them into thermobaric explosives that detonate and cause high temperature shockwaves, decompression, and intense pressurization that kills living things within the domain. If it weren't for Choso's sacrifice, Yuji would be dead right now by the end of JJK. Another thing I'd add is that Sukuna could only do it for 99 seconds because of his weakened condition from running the Sorcerer Gauntlet. If this was full power Sukuna, Malevolent Shrine plus Divine Flames would have continued until everything, including Yuji, was burnt out of existence. But wait, if Malevolent Shrine is really so OP, and it can also defeat characters with heavenly restriction like Maki and Toji, then how is it not above Unlimited Void? The thing is, Malevolent Shrine can still be tanked by someone like Gojo, but the sure hit of Unlimited Void can even stun Sukuna despite the fact that Sukuna is arguably stronger than Gojo. Unlimited Void objectively has a superior sure hit effect because it destroys the opponent's brain inside out by flooding them with limitless information. There is no character in Jujutsu Kaisen that can avoid the burnout from Unlimited Void. Sukuna used the sure hit to have Megumi Soul adapt Maharaga to Unlimited Void, and yet, even after getting hit for less than 10 seconds, the damage was so much that Sukuna became physically incapable of unleashing his domain. Of course, one could still argue that Malevolent Shrine is more refined because of the open barrier, but let's not forget that both domains have canonically been shown to be equally refined because of the way that their domain clash played out. Yes, Sukuna's domain does have an edge because he can attack the barrier from outside too, but Gojo is proficient enough to the point that he can change the conditions of his domain as naturally as he breathes. Besides, if Gojo's domain was open barrier, it may actually have been a net negative for Unlimited Void because it's much more dangerous than Malevolent Shrine. If one slash from Malevolent Shrine will cause you to lose a limb, an instance of Unlimited Void can turn you into a vegetable for the rest of your life. If Unlimited Void was an open barrier domain, Gojo would avoid using it because of the potential consequences in that region. Ultimately, Sukuna needed Maharaga's adaptation to make Unlimited Void collapse. Yes, it was still Sukuna's skill, but we're talking about Malevolent Shrine here. Malevolent Shrine lost to Gojo's Unlimited Void the last time they clashed. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with this, or do you disagree? Would you change any positions of the domains? Do you think Malevolent Shrine is actually stronger than Unlimited Void? Give me your honest take. And of course, let's continue this conversation in the comment section down below. Now, before we end the video, I want to include a few more domain expansions as honorable mentions, such as Yuki's domain, Ryu's domain, Udo's domain, and Hanami's domain. Make sure to comment down below and let me know what you think and what we could have seen of Yuki's domain. She was badass and I was looking forward to seeing more of her domain, so sad we didn't get to see more of her. Anyways guys, my name is TK. Anyway, see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much.